right equipment is extremely important. And when it comes to jigging for ice fishing, it's no exception. For walleyes, what I like to use is kind of a medium action rod. This is a new walleye weapon. The Next Bite rods are produced by Clam, and they can be found at Bass Pro Shops. That's a very sensitive rod. And then the line system is extremely important. What I've got here is I've got 12-pound test Nanafill. Gives me no stretch, so I've got tremendous feel working that line through this whole rod. This blank goes all the way through the rod, so I've got tremendous feel with this line. The other thing I like about the line is it carries very little water. Now when I'm in a tent like this, it doesn't make as much difference, but when I'm out roaming around looking for fish and the elements and that water wants to freeze on the line right away, I don't get as much of that. The other nice thing with this Nanafill is that when you do get a little ice on there, it just wipes off very easily. You just grab onto the line and that ice slides right off and breaks away. And then we go down to a barrel swivel here in the system, and then about 3 feet generally of fluorocarbon. I use 100% fluorocarbon. I start out with 3.5 to 4 feet, and then I'll gradually cut it on down as I need to. And maybe it's getting nicked up or whatever, but I like to have at least 2.5 feet of the fluorocarbon. What that does is it gives me low visibility. The properties of fluorocarbon, they aren't going to be able to see that line. It also gives me a little bit of a bungee effect for setting the hook and actually working these baits better. I think the combination of that no stretch line and that little bit of rubber band action, especially with some of these vertical jigging baits, you get a little bit better action. So for me, this is the perfect system for ice jigging.
In addition to using shiners, spoons, and dead sticks with jigs to catch these Lake of the Woods walleyes, adding tip-ups into the mix,
yeah, this one was just suspended a little bit.
Can not only be a fun way to easily catch more fish, but they can offer up some good intel on the bite as well, posing as a sixth man.
If it's actually a fish, it's like the smallest fish on earth. Look at that.
Even if they aren't always monsters.
Did you notice how I set the hook on that fish? You really gotta give it to him.
The information or addition to your nightly fish fry, at least, is certainly something that can be appreciated for essentially very little effort overall. Well, usually.
Jim, where are you, man?
Do you need the gas?
Jim! No, what I need you to do is reset this tip up.
No, get out of here.
Does this mean you're not gonna? Yeah, you can't get good help anymore.
Cool. This is that very high one, Jim. We removed the cheese here.
Yeah, 10 feet from the bottom of the ice, you said it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, initially I set it 10 feet off the bottom, and then I saw a real high mark come through about 10, 12 feet down. He's still there.
He's going away from there. There he is.
Got him.
Yeah, make sure that line's going away.
It's interesting. I mean, almost 30 feet of water, and we're talking only a third of the way down. There's our marker there.
Oh, yeah, here he comes.
All right.
Nice Lake of the Woods walleye and tip-ups. That's one thing you don't see a lot up here, Pete, is people using tip-ups. They always got a dead rod next to them, but not a lot of people use tip-ups, and you know, going up and down in the water column like that, that's a good thing to use your tip-ups for.
Yeah, one that spreads you out a little bit too. That's the thing, you know. Your dead rod you got to keep right next to you, and these you can spread out a little bit.
Yep.
One of the things that really makes ice fishing a lot more fun is to get a good fish finder. It just draws a picture of what's happening down there and really lets you adjust to things as they're occurring as the fish come in and look at your lures. So let me show you what I'm looking at on my screen down here so you can get an idea of how to set up your fish finder. So the first thing you'll notice is that I have my unit in split screen here. On this side we have the full water column, 0 down to 30. We're in 28 feet of water. On this side I've went to 4 times zoom, so I'm only seeing the very bottom because most of the fish that are coming in, you know, I'm working towards the bottom here, so that's where I want most of my detail. The reason I still want this side though is because we have had a few fish come in high. You'll see them actually cruising across. So let's look at what I've got on this screen. Here's the bottom down here, this dark line. You'll notice that there's a line running right here just above the bottom. That actually is my dead rod. So that's the jig that I've got down there with a couple lively fatheads on it. I've got it set about a foot above the bottom. Now the other rod, what I like to do with that is I actually let that sit on the bottom a little while, and it seems like a real good action here is just pulling that up, kind of ripping it up, and then I start to jiggle. And I run that just above the height of my dead rod down there. And I'm really using this as an attractant. And it seems like for this trip, after you jiggle a little bit, if you just drop it down to the bottom and then let it sit on the bottom, and I'm talking about 5, even 10 seconds, it seems like it gets those fish interested. And I'm gonna rip it up again and start to jiggle. Now, the next thing that hopefully happens is a fish comes in. And what that will look like most of the time is a dark mark coming up off the bottom, moving up towards that dead rod line. And in that case, what I've got to do is determine which rod is actually getting that fish interested. So as that dark mark starts to come in, the first thing I want to do is grab my dead rod, jiggle it and work it a little bit, see if that fish is going to go after that. But at the same time, I'll raise up my jig rod, my spoon rod just a little bit, and really jiggle that a little bit harder. Then if that mark continues on past my dead rod and up to this, I know which one it's actually looking at. So when you got this unit set up right, you can not only see your lures down there, but see the fish come in, see how they react to those lures, and really make yourself a better ice fisherman by watching that screen.
Leading information on tackle and techniques to make you a better fisherman. Presented by Mercury.
You know, a lot of you might have seen a little commercial Chase Parsons and I did comparing Verados and Optimaxes, and I just want to go into a little bit more detail on why you might pick one engine over the other. First of all, you have to look at the boat that you're running. For example, my tournament rig can take a big horsepower engine. Actually, it's unlimited. In that case, a lot of times with those real high-end boats, you can choose either Verado or Optimax Pro XS, because in both cases, you can get enough horsepower to really make those boats perform. You got to look at things with the Verado like the total driving package, the nice power steering, the quietness for those big boats. But there are some boats like the smaller fishing ski that I'm running today where the choice of your engine can make a big difference on the performance of the boat. For example, I've run this boat with both a Verado and an Optimax, a Pro XS on it, and I found that because the Pro XS is lighter weight, this boat does a lot better. It gives better top end speed, it does better running out in the rough water, gives it better acceleration, and I think a lot of that is the less weight. It just allows the boat to get more lift. Now when people think of lift in a boat, many times they think it's the bow lift that's making a big difference, and that can make a difference. What's probably more important is making sure that the back end of your boat is also lifting, getting up on top of that water. So in that case, that lighter weight Pro XS Optimax is going to be a better choice. So how do you know which one to choose? You know, rely on things like your dealer. Go into your dealer and ask them which one is running better. Go to places like the Next Bite Forum and ask questions. You know, who runs an Optimax? Who runs a Verado? Which one is better on this style of boat? And that's going to give you some real good options. So picking the right engine can make a big difference on how well your boat performs. Make the right choice, and let's get out there and go fishing.